Okay, ready for a deep dive into something that could really shake things up in the financial world.
I'm all ears. What's on the docket today?
Imagine a future where, get this, your social network is your ticket to getting a loan.
Now, that's a thought-provoking idea. Let's unpack that a little.
Right, and that's exactly where this research paper we're diving into comes in.
Oh, this is going to be good.
It's all about using AI and social networks to figure out who's likely to pay back their loans, creditworthiness.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Go on.
And get this, it's especially focused on folks who are considered thin-file borrowers.
Thin-file borrowers, you mean?
Basically, people who haven't been in the credit system long enough to have a thick credit history.
Ah, I see. So brand new borrowers or those who haven't had a chance to build much credit yet.
Exactly. And that's a huge issue in finance. Like globally, we're talking about billions of people.
Oh, absolutely. It's a massive issue. There are so many people who are either completely unbanked,
Meaning?
they don't even have a bank account,
Wow.
or they're underbanked,
So they have an account.
but they can't get access to loans or other financial services, again, because they lack that traditional credit history.
They just fall through the cracks.
It's a huge problem.
And that's where this research comes in. It's asking, what if lenders could look beyond your financial past?
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
Like instead of just looking at your credit score, what if they could get a glimpse into your financial future based on your connections?
It's an intriguing concept, tapping into the power of social connections to assess financial trustworthiness. It's funny, before credit scores and fancy algorithms,
Back in the day.
lenders actually often relied on reputation and community ties.
Really?
It's true. So in a way, this research is kind of like a digital age take on that old school approach.
Makes sense. And just to be clear, we're not talking about your Instagram followers here.
Yeah, no, your follower count won't get you a loan.
This is about those real-world, in-person relationships.
The nitty-gritty of your social fabric.
Right. And this research focused on data from Latin America, marriages, family ties, business connections. They even looked at who you bank with.
Wow, that's comprehensive. They were really trying to map out the intricacies of social networks.
Exactly. The idea is to uncover those hidden patterns that could predict financial behavior.
It's like a social network, but for your finances. And the researchers wanted to see if they could decode it to get a sense of someone's creditworthiness.
So how'd they go about doing that? Did they, create a Facebook friend score for your finances or something?
Well, not exactly a Facebook friend score, but they did use 3 main techniques. The first one they call handcrafted features.
Handcrafted features. Sorry.
Think of it like a financial detective piecing together clues. They look at things like the average credit score of the people in your network, their debt levels, that sort of thing.
So if you're surrounded by a bunch of responsible bill payers, the financial detective gives you a thumbs up.
Precisely. It's a surprisingly effective way to get a general sense of someone's financial reliability based on the company they keep. Birds of a feather and all that.
Makes sense. But then they get into some seriously futuristic stuff with this next technique, Node to Vec.
Now we're talking. Node to Vec is fascinating.
It sounds like something straight out of Star Trek.
It does, doesn't it? Picture this. Your entire social network transformed into this massive map.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Node to Vec tries to pinpoint your location on that map based on your credit risk.
So the closer you are to someone on the map,
The more similar your credit profiles are likely to be.
that's wild. It's like a financial GPS. But instead of guiding you to your destination, it's guiding lenders to a decision about your loan.
That's a great way to put it. However, while Node to Vec showed promise, the paper found it wasn't the most effective technique. At least not yet.
Okay, so if Node to Vec is still in its early stages, what about the heavy hitter? The thing that really blew my mind was this idea of graph neural networks, GNNs.
Ah, yes, GNNs. Now we're talking serious AI firepower.
This is where things get really interesting.
Imagine a network that can not only see all your connections, but it can also understand how your personal financial situation interacts with those connections in all their messy, real-life complexity.
So it's not just about who you know, but how you know them and what your financial life looks like within that web of connections.
Exactly. It's about understanding the nuances of those relationships and how they might influence financial behavior.
And what did they find? Were these GNNs able to make accurate predictions?
That's the thing. They were incredibly powerful, especially when combined with those handcrafted features we talked about earlier, that financial detective work. By combining the two, their predictions about credit risk were spot on. Really impressive.
It sounds like a match made in data heaven. But there's something else in the research that I found really interesting. Borrower history. Beyond 6 months, Didn't actually change the predictions much. 6 months.
6 months. That's fascinating.
That's like saying your financial past isn't as important as we thought.
It is a fascinating finding, and it really makes you think about the potential implications. Lenders might not need years of data to make accurate assessments.
Wow, that could really speed things up.
Exactly. This could lead to faster decisions for borrowers and potentially open up opportunities for people who might have had some financial bumps in the road but are now back on track.
Like a financial fresh start?
Precisely.
And speaking of different paths, let's talk about how these networks play out for different types of loans. Because the research uncovered some pretty interesting distinctions between business loans and personal loans, right?
You're right, they did. There were some very interesting findings when it came to how social networks influenced predictions for business versus personal loans.
Yeah. When it came to business loans, your network really seemed to matter, like, a lot.
Which makes sense, right? I mean, in the business world, it's all about who you know.
It's true. The people you do deals with, your mentors, even your competitors, it all paints a picture of how you operate in that world.
It's like a track record, but for trust and how you handle things.
Exactly. Your business network shows lenders a lot about your judgment, your risk appetite, all those things that determine your likelihood of success. So it's like, show me your LinkedIn connections and I'll tell you if you're good for a loan.
Something like that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But okay, what about personal loans? Do those connections matter as much there?
Things got interesting there. For personal loans, family ties were the biggest factor in the prediction.
Really? More than business connections? That's surprising.
Yeah, that's what they found. Seems like when it comes to personal finances, family background casts a long shadow.
So like their financial habits rub off on you.
Exactly. Whether it's their habits, their attitude towards debt, even their financial ups and downs, it all leaves a mark.
Makes you wonder if we inherit our money habits, like we inherit our taste in music or something.
Could be something to that. You know, those early experiences with money, the lessons we learn growing up, it shapes our relationship with finances.
That's fascinating. So it's not just data points, it's really ingrained in who we are.
It is. Our social networks are embedded in our financial DNA.
But okay, before we all start mapping out our family trees to see if we qualify for a loan, we have to address the elephant in the room, right?
Oh, absolutely. We can't talk about using social networks in finance without talking about the potential downsides.
Exactly. Like, what about bias? Could this kind of analysis end up unfairly excluding certain groups of people?
That's a huge concern, and one we need to be very careful about. It's vital to make sure that these systems are designed fairly and equitably.
We need to make sure we're using this tech responsibly and not perpetuating existing inequalities.
100%. Transparency and careful consideration of the ethical implications are crucial here.
Because honestly, this research could completely change how we think about credit and financial access. It's pretty exciting when you consider the potential here. It's like we're on the verge of this whole new financial world, one where your social capital, who you know, that's what gets you actual capital, money.
It's a great way to put it. Think about it. Our networks are already so important. They help us land jobs, find apartments, even meet our significant others.
Don't forget about recommendations for the best tacos in town.
Exactly. We rely on our networks to navigate so much of our lives.
Right.
And soon, those connections could play a central role in our financial lives as well.
It's kind of exciting, but also a little unnerving, don't you think?
I get that.
Like, what if someday lenders are looking at our social graphs instead of our credit scores?
It's definitely a different way of thinking about things, but it could also create some incredible opportunities, especially for folks who haven't had the chance to build a traditional credit history.
That's a really good point.
Imagine your strong social connections could be your ticket to accessing loans, starting businesses, even buying a home.
It would be huge for so many people.
Absolutely. This research really underscores the potential for creating a more inclusive financial system, one that looks beyond traditional metrics and recognizes the value of social capital.
So we're moving from it's not what you know, it's who you know,
Yeah.
to it's not just what you have, it's who you know. Okay, maybe that's a mouthful. But seriously, this deep dive has been eye-opening. We got a glimpse into the future of finance, and it's all about connection.
It has been a fascinating conversation, and I think it highlights something really important. Now, we often underestimate how interconnected our financial lives truly are.
Our financial well-being is tied to so much more than just our individual choices.
Exactly.
And for our listeners, if you're as intrigued by this research as we are, we've included a link to the paper in our show notes. It's definitely worth checking out.
It's a fascinating look at the intersection of finance and AI. And who knows, it might even change how you view your own social network.
Maybe it's time to start a spreadsheet of all my friends with excellent credit scores. Just kidding. Or am I? That's all the time we have for today's Deep Dives. Thanks for joining us as we explored the fascinating world where social networks and finance collide. It's been a blast.